there, my name is Tracy. I'm so glad you came today. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make a humongous, giant, huge A9 Mother's Day card. So let's sit back, watch the video, and have some fun. So yeah, A9. How do I make an A9 card with 6x6 paper? Well, I'm going to show you. This paper is so gorgeous. The Flowers Music of Spring is probably among my favorites. And then I've got an 8.5 11 sheet of 110-pound cardstock. And I picked out 3 of the more watercolory looks. But I will be using one more, and you'll see that. And then I'm going to stamp out the shoes and flowers. And then I've got a couple of oval dies to make my shaker frame. And so the measurements, I'm cutting my paper at 2 by 2, and I'm going to cut 12 squares, and then my layer here is 8 by 5. And I'm going to be laying squares on that. So I'll cut the squares off camera, but first let's make the card base. And then you're probably saying, what are you thinking making an A9 card? Well, it's a funny story. I had heard from a European maker that she talked about how the bigger the card, the more the mom was loved. And so this is about the biggest you can get with our 8.5 and 11s. So that's why I'm doing it. And plus that, I just really want to showcase all this beautiful paper. So all you do to make an A9 is just divide it in half. So make a score line at 5.5 and then fold it in half, and then just grab something and burnish it down, and that's your card base. It's huge. And I hear a lot of people talking about, they wouldn't want to make an A9 card because there's so much real estate on there. But I'm going to show you that you can use up that real estate real quick without making a super busy card. So let's move on to the next step here. I will cut these into the 2-inch squares, and I'm just going to lay my paper down here, my base paper that I'm going to glue these on, and it's about a 65-pound paper. And I'm going to grab my brand new T-ruler here and just kind of center that best I can, and then glue it down. So once I have that centered and on there, everything else goes pretty easily. And yes, I will have to trim some off. So my idea here is kind of like a quilt. Now you could, and I did not do it for this one because it would just make the video too long, and I don't want to complicate things for you, but you could take a pen and make little stitch marks, or you could take it to your sewing machine and stitch these down. It just depends on how much you love the person you're giving this card to, because sewing it or even drawing little stitch lines is going to be very, very time consuming. Honestly, it doesn't need it. So I'm just graduating, so I'm doing these more like a subway tile or a alternate tile, and going back and forth with where I lay my tile sheets. And notice I've got a little blank space there on the right and left side of my second row, and that's okay. We're going to fill that in. And so I'm just kind of laying these squares down and just making sure they're up against each other, and trying to get this fourth row even with the second row best I can. It doesn't have to be perfect, and my quilts aren't perfect either. Now I'm going to trim these pieces down to 1 inch and glue them down like so. Nope, that's too short. Okay, nope, both of those are too short. That one I can't put there. So I end up cutting another piece. No worries, because I don't want two of the same pieces going together. So let's grab this piece right here, and I'll just cut off 1 inch and then 2 inches so that it fits, and then I'll get them glued down. And we're going to set that aside to dry while we work on the next step. There, everything's all together there. Put my glue away, and I'm going to use a piece of cream 110-pound cardstock, and this is just cardstock from my stash. And I'm going to cut a frame, and I'm going to keep the inner circle of that frame. So I've cut the frame, And I have cut 2 pieces of acetate the same size as the larger oval. And these little butterflies, I actually fussy cut from one of the sheets of paper. There's the leftovers of what's the sheet. They're so beautiful, I just had to do it. I had to. If you don't like fussy cutting, don't do it. Well, there's all kinds of ephemera at Not Too Shabby Shop, so you could choose from many things. And also, one of the Kiss Cut sticker sheets goes very, very well with this paper. In fact, I think it was made to coordinate, but I'm not going to commit to that because I'm not 100% sure. So I just put down some 1/8 inch double-sided tape and then burnished it down. And I'm just pulling off the backer. I'm going to lay my first piece of acetate on. If I can get this to not stick to me. And I decided to lay the acetate down and lay this onto the acetate. Okay, now I just need to add foam tape. And I've got these strips, and they don't have glue on one side or sticky on one side, so you have to use glue or something. And I'm going to actually use the tape again. And I got really lucky that 3 of these fit perfectly around this oval. We'll just get those laid down and make sure that there's no openings. And now I'm going to take that same 1/8 inch tape and I'm just going to go around this. I'm going to make sure that's nice and even. There we go. I'm just going to go around this foam the same way I went around the frame and lay this double-sided sticky tape down. And notice I'm not pulling it off the roll, and I've got my roll laying there beside me. I'm just pulling out what I need when I need it. A little schmutz there. Get that off of there. Okay, there we go. So it's pretty simple, and where you're using an 1/8 inch tape, it's kind of easy to bend around corners. And I'll just tear that tape off. The only thing I can say about the 1/8 inch tape is, you see how I've got a little piece hanging off there? Put that away, because it'll stick to everything. Okay, so I've pulled out some bits that I want to use for a shaker. I've got some little hearts, and I believe these glow in the dark. And then I have this little iridescent. In hindsight, I might not have used it because the iridescent part of it has some pink tone to it, and it is very, very staticky. So there's that. And I'm going to throw some of these sparkle spots in. And something else I learned about myself is that I don't have a lot of blue. I have a lot of turquoise blue, but I don't have a lot of blue of embellishment. So I need to work on that. And then I'm going to throw in some of these shaker pops, just so it helps everything shake around. And what I want to do is I want to make sure nothing's kind of standing up in there. And then I'm going to pull off the backer. So see, this is a nice big shaker. You could even put, butterflies in there. And I'm just going to lay my acetate down. Make sure there's none of these little shaker beds. See what I mean? They're kind of pretty staticky, and they just go wherever they feel like going. I just want to make sure that's good and stuck down. And I'll test it. And then I'll just kind of trim off any excess where I kind of got it crooked. But, it's acetate. It's hard to see. That's easy to trim. Okay, so there's that piece. It's going to go right in the center of the card. And you see what I'm saying about the A9 size card is just make everything bigger. And what you're going to see at the end is I end up putting a small sentiment on here, and it works out beautifully. Because the sentiment is part of it, but also the design. So I'm just trimming off the excess now. Get that one little piece to trim off there. And I do end up having to trim off a little bit more because I got a little crooked, because that's just the nature of me. I can see some white space, and I don't love white space on there. Not for this particular design. So I'm going to use this T-roller, and it's meant to be a jig for 3/8 inch or 1/2 inch and on an A2 size card. And this is an A9, so I'm just going to have to adjust. And I set my magnet down on it so it stays still, but I can see where I need to trim some more off. Just a little bit. And listen, if you get any rough edges, because I'm looking at a rough edge, I use this little sanding tool and I just sand that off. And that tends to work out. And I can see a rough edge there on the right-hand corner too. It needs to get sanded off. So simple like that. And then I'm just going to use liquid glue to glue this down. Make sure I'm getting plenty of glue and have a little battle with my glue. It happens. It's okay. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of use that ruler to get this on here straight. And now I can attach my shaker portion. And I did the see-through shaker because, again, the paper I love. And I'm going to stamp and color the shoes, but I end up not using them on the outside. I end up deciding that I like the shoes part, but I don't like the way I colored the flowers. So I'm going to still use it. I'll just use it on the inside. And I'm going to use my butterflies that I fussy cut out of the paper on the outside. So I want to glue this down. You could tape it down if you wanted to, but I'm going to use some just liquid glue. And this is my PVA glue, so it has a little bit of dry time. And I'm just kind of using my fingers to kind of spread it out and wiping them off over to the side that you can't see on my yoga pants, because that's where everything goes. You should see them, friends. They're holy and covered in paint and, you know, all the things. And I'm going to lay this just a little bit above center and make sure it's on here straight. Sometimes it's hard to straighten an oval because it's an oval. But I'm happy with the placement. It still looks a little catty corner, but you won't notice once I get my butterflies on. So I'm just going to start laying down butterflies. So I thought that was funny about the size of the card. And so I've been actually dying to make an A9 size card. Now my mother's gone. Yeah. I don't have a mom. I'm an orphan. No, that's okay. Happens to most of us. But I have daughters-in-law. And I have friends who are moms. So, you know, even if you don't have a mom, you can still make a beautiful Mother's Day card and a big, huge, gigantic one so that person knows how much they're loved. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, let's get back to the card here. And I'm just gluing the butterflies down to the little frame portion. And I also fussy cut out some of these little leaf clusters, these little blue leaf clusters. And they're just kind of a back behind type thing. I don't need them to be center stage. Just a kind of a filler, I guess, so to speak. Let's get this little butterfly on here. I just love the soft blues and yellows of this paper pad. Let's see, do I want any more on here? I think I do. I think I'm going butterfly crazy. Let's get one up over here, going kind of sitting in another direction. And then I want either side even, and it doesn't matter that this one's yellow and the one above it's yellow. They're still different. And I think I'll put this little leaf down so that I've used everything that I fussy cut out. I'll just kind of tuck it in behind there to break that space up. And there's kind of the front of the card before sentiment. So then we save this portion, and we can lay this in the inside of the card to, you know, do our personal message or do our sentiment, what have you. And you find out what kind of person you are when you go start looking for Mother's Day stamps or dies, and you don't have any. I have one stamp set that says Mom on it, I think. Friends, I may have more, but my brain couldn't go there. It's like, I'm not sure where or who or what company. So I used what I had in front of me, and I'm just, see how that's just a tiny sentiment, but it works. And I'm just using this T-roller to kind of make sure that it's straight across there. And then I'll take the thanks for all you do and glue it inside, and that's the A9 card finished. Isn't it gorgeous? You've got all that shaker fun. You've got the beautiful butterflies and the gorgeous paper. And if you like this video, please leave us a thumbs up and tell us in the comments below if you ever heard of needing a large card for that reason. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.